Okay, I guess 3 will do. Just want to make sure everything is working properly. Doesn't sound like it is. Hear feedback in the background. Let me see if I can fix that. Appreciate those of you that have tuned in up to this point. Actually just now getting out the shower, so if I'm being truthful, I'm actually pretty far behind. And we're going to be probably right in the middle of a new model update. So depending on how things go with this will determine how long we stay live for. Probably don't intend to stay live beyond an hour here, but we'll see what happens. My hair's still wet. Again, good afternoon to everybody who's here now, and hopefully we'll get some more. Need to put my phone on the charger while I'm at it. Jeez. Is it charging? Yeah, it is. Okay, good. That's better. All right, so no real easy way to say it, but things are getting interesting here. And normally, the situation I try to avoid hyping up is starting to look pretty likely. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, one thing that we do here often on the channel is we analyze forecast models, and we end up looking into the medium to long range here. And then we start looking at trends here. When you see this around like 300 hours or so, a storm system small like this, I don't really put a whole lot of merit or a lot of worry into it. It's rarely do I ever really allow myself to get concerned. Once we start getting into much closer range, like the run we just saw here, when storms have this kind of impact within the 7-day time frame, it gets a little bit more intriguing, and it gets a little bit more troublesome when you see this across multiple models here. In fact, there we are right now. We're looking at the newest GFS starting to come in. We'll probably take a look at that if we get enough people in here. But when you start to see storm systems like this across multiple models within a 1-week time frame, or there's 1 week left to go, that's when you have to kind of address the elephant in the room, hence the title of this stream. So we're going to go over the details here as best as we can. It's becoming pretty dangerous, if I'm being completely honest, considering the fact that there looks to be a lot of freezing rain and ice with this system, if this still comes into fruition, which, given the fact that multiple models are showing this, I'm starting to have an increase in confidence in that. So we're going to go over the potential impacts and much more in the days ahead. Mind you, I want to make sure I make this clear. By no means does it mean panic, does it mean clean out the shelves at the store, or at least not yet. There is a time to prepare, and I don't want pure madness happening already. I would say if we're going to even do anything in regards to going to the store, we would need to wait maybe a day or two from now if you're trying to prepare early. The last thing you want to do, especially given the times, is to spend a boatload of money on a storm system that could conk out. I mean, it could still do that anyway within the last 48 hours. But, again, considering the model data we're seeing, even though models can be wrong sometimes, there's always that chance. So we're kind of playing a little bit of a balancing act here. And it's not the kind of balancing act that we like. But nonetheless, we're going to get into the details here. So we'll start out with the GFS. We're looking at old model data here. We're going to get some new data here in just a little bit. We actually might be in range now. If I remember correctly, let's look. Yeah, we actually are in range. So the new data is coming in. We're going to actually update this all the way to 18. This will actually be my first look at this, by the way, to anyone that's interested. So I actually have no idea what to expect from this run. It could very well diminish on this run, which will be probably the most desirable scenario, but I don't have high hopes of that happening. So I guess we're going to unwrap we're going to take the seal off of this and see what happens. So as you can see, the middle part of this week, not much to really talk about. Really, the whole lower 48 is kind of quiet. We do have this little blob of snow from a clipper system out towards the Midwest. You do get some lake effect snow going once it runs into some moisture here. We have a little odd system here that pops up Wednesday, but doesn't really mean much of anything here. But by the time we get into Friday, and it's especially interesting because we have an area of high pressure that pops up over here towards Canada. It's going to help push this cold air a lot further to the south. And then there's a piece of energy over here towards Mexico that's going to come in, and it's going to bring in moisture to the equation. So now that moisture is meeting up with the cold air, and you can kind of see the result. Put it in perspective for you. The 32-degree line is right here on this number that says 540. This is where our freezing line is. Right in between that and the 546 line, which is the next closest temperature to freezing, is where the deformation zone is. This is where rain will start to freeze, turn over into sleet, snow, depending on how the temperatures are set up in different levels of the atmosphere. If it's below 32 degrees all the way to the ground, snow. When you get those little shallow areas of warm air aloft, that's when you start getting the freezing rains, the sleets, and the ice. So always need to be watchful of where that zone ends up forming. And one thing that I've picked up on here is now things have kind of accelerated a bit here. We're now looking at maybe a scenario where we get frozen precipitation perhaps a day earlier than what previous model guidance has suggested. So we're taking a look now, and we're starting to see this deformation zone forming a little further off to the south now. We're now looking at parts of southern Arkansas, Louisiana being the point of interest for freezing rain and sleet as well. Before, we were kind of bullseyeing Texas for Friday, and there's a chance it may trend back to the west a little bit as well. But western parts of Texas may end up getting spared from this now. It's kind of hard to say at this point. Oh, wait, there it goes. Like I said, I haven't even had a look at this data. It's literally fresh off the press. So you can see that we have our deformation zone here stretching from parts of central Texas, heading all the way into Alabama, and even sneaking into parts of Georgia. You're seeing this conversion line where we have rain and snow beginning to develop in the deformation zone. And you continue to see that become a persistent problem through the day on Saturday as well. So this has all the lookings of a multi-day event. Here's where you see that low emerge from the Gulf all the way out towards the Atlantic coastline here. So we're going to have a continual supply of moisture, but look how close it is to the cold air. So for some of these areas a little bit further off towards the north and east here, around the southeastern region, we could see some pretty heavy snowfall and maybe even some significant totals from this if this scenario does pan out. And we'll continue to see this head out to sea. This doesn't end up being as big of an event for areas over towards parts of Virginia and up towards the mid-Atlantic. I do think that we'll probably still get some impressive totals here as well if this scenario plays out, but areas towards the northeast are probably going to end up being spared. You're not going to get as much out of this system, unlike this most recent system that we just had this weekend. So let's take a look and see what we got here, because it looks like my internet's acting up. No, it should be good. I don't think it's an OBS issue. Now, I don't know why we're having that issue. Come on now. Why are we dealing with frame drop right now? Just a second. Okay, I think I might have it under control. Oh, no, I don't. Oh dear. It's not one thing, it's another. Ethernet is connected properly. We've been having internet issues the last few days, so if we do buffer, I apologize. Let's go over to the Euro. The Euro is not loaded in. A new Euro model has not loaded in yet and probably won't for at least another hour or so. It's going to be a while before it even starts to populate from this juncture. So we're going to try to manage this as best as we can. All right. Uh-oh. This is really not good. I don't know what's going on here. 1 second, guys. I'm going to have to try and fix this because if we keep dropping frames, it's going to be a huge problem. Because I don't know why and on earth we are having so much trouble right now. One moment. Oh, my connection's weak. Oh, you gotta love it, Xfinity. You gotta love Xfinity. They love being god-awful. Xfinity, absolute horse crap, man. 1 second, I'm gonna check and see what's going on with my, maybe it's the router. Hopefully it's not that. I'll be right back. I'm going to try to see if there's another source I can connect to really quickly. I hope my hotspot will work, but I'm doubtful. But yeah, this is not good at all. Xfinity is absolutely unreliable. Are we back? Okay. Have the frame stabilized. I almost want to hold my breath, make sure we're good. Looks like we're stable again. I don't know what the hell that was, man, but I've been having a lot of problems with my internet as of lately, and I'm getting to a point where I'm actually starting to get kind of mad. I've been trying my best to be respectful, but this is the third problem that we've had just this month. Ever since the new year started, we've had issues, and I'm getting to a point now where I'm less than pleased. You want me to pay my bill on time, but you guys can't do your job right. But that's besides the point. Maybe I'm just mad because my team lost their game yesterday. Anyway, so back to the beginning. So as I was explaining before with the setup, it's alarming whenever you see this on multiple model runs. We looked at the GFS a little earlier, and I see more people are starting to tune in now. Thankfully, we're back online properly. But in case anyone missed it, we're talking about the potential and increasing likelihood of a significant winter storm and maybe even an ice storm for the southern parts of the U.S., especially the deep south, like southeastern parts, Atlanta, even heading into the Ozarks. Texas looks like it could also be a state that has significant impacts as well. So, looks like we've had a little bit of a change in the time frame here, whereas we're now potentially looking at Friday maybe being the point of interest, whereas I was thinking Saturday was originally going to be the start of the impacts, and then they will probably becoming increasingly significant throughout the day. But as you can see here, this is the latest GFS model. This is fresh off the press, by the way. You can see that we're starting to get our deformation zone starting to pop up here by the time we get into Friday evening. And there's also been a little bit of a trend. The point of initiation started out a little bit further off towards the west. We've had a little bit of an eastward shift with that. Now, this could be due to where this high pressure ends up being shifted towards, because it was a little bit further off towards the west as well. This is also shifted east. Not much has really changed with the low pressure since the last time I've looked at this. But as time goes on, as this low meanders, and we continue to have this high hanging around and pushing more and more cold air further south due to its clockwise flow, we end up in a spot where Texas, parts of Oklahoma in particular, it looks like now it's Louisiana more so than it is Arkansas that might get slammed by this. Also, with the timing of this now on Saturday morning, this is where we start to see the impacts come into the deep south here, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Starts a little bit further towards the north, and then it progresses further to the south. You're starting to see the start. Originally, we're starting out of snow, and then we're shifting into freezing rain as we get later into the evening and then into the overnight hours. By the time now we get into Sunday, a lot of this has exited the area. But again, this is the latest GFS. Not all the models have updated quite yet. If I'm looking at the Euro right now, which is what we were doing before things got cut off, we paint a little bit of a different scenario here. We're kind of remaining with the trend that we've had. The low is a little bit stronger here compared to the GFS on its latest run. The Euro's high pressure ends up being a little bit further to the east as well. So that's kind of interesting. Because again, I was looking at it last night, and I was seeing this a little bit further off towards the west here, a little bit closer towards the central part of the Minnesota and Iowa border here. But either way, with this sinking further to the south and this low kind of popping up over here now, we get a little bit of a pull of moisture. We still have another piece of energy that pops up here with it. But now with more moisture coming in from this low as well, we're going to have a greater field of moisture available to interact with this cold air as it's pushed south. Because like I said before, this clockwise flow is going to push more cold air to the south. You can kind of see it with these contour lines right here. You put it in motion, you see how this is kind of moving in a circular motion like this. And that's going to funnel more cold air right into the moisture, actually. So this is going to be a pretty big snow shield that you end up seeing here. It's a closer view of it, by the way. And then also in this deformation zone, this is where we have the potential for freezing rain. So if we keep things moving, we end up having a relatively persistent band of freezing rain that pops up into Saturday evening and into the overnight hours. And this lingers into early Sunday morning, but it's a quick mover. But unfortunately, by this point, the damage would be done. Now, the Euro scenario is a little bit more of a nightmare scenario, considering how big of an ice shield we end up having. So the concern with this is if this scenario comes out, this could be crippling to the southeast, because you know the infrastructure here is not really prepared for this level of storm. You also see these two low pressures here. This could phase, and this stretches then into the Carolinas, where we could have crippling impacts from ice before this ends up heading out of the U.S. by the time we get into Sunday night. Snow totals, regardless of whether it's GFS or the Euro, is pretty consistent across the board for the Delmarva and also the vineyards here. So snow totals, I would expect them to be lighter than what we had with this last system that came through yesterday. But still, you could see some precipitation there as well. So these are the two models that are the most reliable that I've looked at. Obviously, we're kind of at a range where we don't have a whole lot beyond this available. So, and one other model I've been looking at, but it hasn't been the most reliable in my opinion, has been the Icon. We do have some data available here. This is a little bit outdated, but I want to try to at least get a look at what's going on here. Even this seems to be falling a little bit closer in line with what we're seeing regarding the GFS and the Euro. This was a lunchtime model. The dinner time model's already come in. And if we take a look at that, like I said, we're staying pretty consistent. But the thing with the dinner time model is we have 60 less hours we can look at. So I'm seeing a similar look, but unfortunately we're cut off at this point. I think the Icon right now kind of sides with the Euro just ever so slightly. So this is still not going to be an easier forecast, but my confidence is a bit higher than what it was with that last storm. We did see some pretty significant snow over here towards South Georgia and parts of the Carolinas as well. But I think that this system easily could dwarf that. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be snow this time. It's going to be freezing rain. So we're going to go over the impacts of how much freezing rain we could get and what those impacts could look like at this point. So one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the Canadian model if I can. I think this uploads every 12 hours, so this is, of course, a little bit dated. But either way, we're trying to get as much data as we can here and try to come up with some kind of forecast. And if I'm being honest, the Canadian looks like it's kind of doing its own thing. This model, in all fairness, has been kind of touch and go with winter storms in the past. At one point, I remember it being a very good model, and it still might be, but I haven't been using this as much. There is a big deformation zone, but this low pressure seems to be up much further to the north here, so this could stifle some areas. But either way, it does look like at some point someone's going to get a crippling ice storm across the deep south. Just how large that impact ends up spanning is to be determined. But anyone that's out towards the deep south specifically, you do need to keep a close eye out for this. Now, one thing that I will say about this scenario is if this were to come into fruition, then we're talking about a much bigger storm for maybe the mid-Atlantic and then, of course, over towards the Delmarva Vineyards. This would be mostly a snowfall event, but over towards maybe parts of eastern Virginia, over towards Roanoke possibly, in areas towards the coastline, this is where we could get crippling ice here as well. Because it seems like there's a lot of moisture available with this system, which is not something you see all that often for the deep south. So that becomes a problem pretty quickly as we're starting to drop frames again. Thanks, Xfinity, for being trash. And then we kind of just keep moving on from that point. Alright, so I'm hoping I don't get disconnected from you guys. Yeah, I just don't understand how you can pay a bill and then the internet still be bad. I suppose this has been getting on my last nerves. I'm about to call these guys and crash out. I'm genuinely tired of this. Genuinely, there's no excuse. I'm not trying to hear anything from these guys anymore. I really aren't. I'm really not. Just absolute trash. There is not a lick of an excuse to be had here. No data. It's ridiculous. There's a bunch of crap, man. If I end up swearing, please forgive me, by the way, because this, like I said, this has been getting pretty old. This is getting pretty old to me. Model data is not even loading at this point. boy. I don't endorse AT&T. I just want to make that clear either. I hate them both, but Xfinity sucks. I'm just going to say it now on here. And I hope they see this. I hope by some chance they see this. Like, this is a joke, man. Genuinely, like, this is a joke. Alright, so this is a look at what we could be seeing in regards to our winter storm impacts. This is us looking at our ice potential or ice accretion. So, obviously, very concerned for areas across the deep south. Real bullseye that seems to be emerging over here in particular seems to be right across the northern parts of Louisiana and into Mississippi, where we're seeing potential for up to maybe even 4/10 of an inch of ice. Ice works differently from snow. Ice will be a situation where we're worried about trees and power lines coming down. And by the time and of course the roads being slick, the biggest issue with ice, of course, is not only the slickness but the weight. Ice is a lot heavier than snow. So what happens here is we end up getting accretion on the power lines, and a 1/4 inch of ice, 0.25 inches of ice across a 500-foot strip of power line is the equivalent of 500 pounds. So whenever you see those power lines begin to start drooping, that's when we start to have problems here. Once you start getting above that 1/4 inch ice, power outages start to become likely. When you start floating with that 1/2 inch of ice, that's when things really start to become concerning. Power outages are likely, and infrastructure starts to really begin to falter at this point. Then from here, another bullseye looks like it kind of pops up over towards the Carolinas, unfortunately, in eastern parts of Georgia. So definitely need to be watchful here. We're getting past that 0.25 threshold here, so definitely getting past that 1/4 inch of ice. Haven't seen any totals yet where we're getting it up to 0.4 yet, but the concern is definitely starting to increase here. And one thing about this model that I'm looking at, the National Weather Service blend of models, is that it looks at all of the other models before coming up with a solution that's kind of right down the middle. So this is a conservative total, if I'm being completely honest. So the fact that I'm seeing that on here, within the range that we're in as well, leads me to have some concerns. So the signals definitely seem like they're there, but obviously still being at the range that we're at, not a lot of confidence to be had still. But nonetheless, we're going to have to continue to talk about this in the days ahead. This is, from all intents and purposes, this looks like it's going to be a pretty big deal, especially if this event does come to fruition. Best case scenario, it does bust, but if it doesn't, oh boy, we could have some huge, and I mean huge implications from this. As far as snowfall is concerned from the system itself, not really a whole lot to talk about. Over towards Kansas, parts of Oklahoma and Texas seem to be the big winners, and then maybe over towards Virginia. I think Virginia is kind of a question mark at this point. It depends on how the mixing ends up occurring within the middle levels of the atmosphere. But simple fact of the matter is, if we end up getting impressive snowfall totals anywhere, it's going to be within one of these two zones. Otherwise, we're going to have little sporadic areas where we could get above maybe 1.5 to 2 inches pretty easily. And then for the states further off towards the north, maybe 2 to 4 inches seems possible. Either way, within the coming days, if things continue to trend as they are, I should say, we're dealing with the potential of seeing maybe winter storm watches being issued as early as maybe Wednesday or Thursday. So, like I said, we're going to need to start preparing soon. I'm not sure what to expect with this just yet, but we could be on the cusp of a big storm, or it could be a whole lot of nothing. So, a couple other things we're going to look at here, and this is kind of more for the nerdy purposes of, just kind of me being me here. And forgive me for that. But I want to take a look at the temperatures at the low to mid-level jet parts of the atmosphere. So I'm really trying to look at what the temperatures are going to be like, at least early on, from about maybe 1,100 feet all the way up to about 20,000 feet. Because this is really what's going to be the determining factor as to who gets what regarding precipitation. So the I'm looking at the wrong map. Here we go. It's been a while since I've looked at this particular map. Okay, so this is us looking at the low-level jet map, typically. I look at this level of the atmosphere usually for winds when it comes to severe weather, for tornadoes. But this version of the map that looks at temperatures really good for looking for freezing rain, sleet potential as well. Because with this map, we're looking at a level slightly above our heads in the atmosphere. This is where we'll see a lot of helicopters flying. Most of our planes, when they're landing, are in this level of the atmosphere. This is the part where we can easily see just about everything if the skies are clear. So what I want you to pay attention to is this 0 degrees Celsius line. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. That's our 32-degree line. It's this area in the green that's just right on the lip of this that you need to pay attention to. So here's that cold air beginning to come in. This is going to be right around the time of initiation for our winter event here. And you can see that right here, and this is right along where that bullseye is across parts of Mississippi and Louisiana. We're just above freezing here. But if I were to go and take a look at... Come on, give me what I'm looking for. Crap, man. It's not working. If it's not one thing, it's another. Okay, here we go. Let's try it again. Oop. Here's what I was trying to do here. I was trying to split the view so that way you can see exactly what the surface temperature is mixed in with what that temperature is at the higher level of the atmosphere. Alright, so look here, you can see it. Our surface temperature is below 32 in this region here. But if you look above the atmosphere here, there's that shallow area of warm air that's just above freezing. So what's going to happen here, or what's anticipated to happen, is we're going to see, most likely, by the time we get to about maybe a few thousand feet above our heads, the snow that would be falling here transitions into rain, but the surface temperatures are going to be low enough to where that rain, once it makes contact with the ground, it refreezes. We end up getting our freezing rain, and then this is where things become problematic and will likely do so in a hurry. And then if we move this forward here, we'll go a few frames. We'll go into later into the day on Saturday. Let's do the same thing here. We'll go to 111 if we can. Look at that. So you can see it again. Same thing with Alabama here and parts of central Mississippi. Temperatures at the surface below freezing. But about 1,000 feet above our heads, above freezing. And we haven't even looked at the mid-level of the atmosphere. So, and this is where things really get tricky here. See, again, and this is what I'm talking about. We're seeing towards the mid-levels of the atmosphere, we're below freezing again. It's that shallow area of warm air aloft towards the lower levels where the problem lies. So you see that still, hour hasn't changed here. We combine that with the surface temperatures, we're at freezing. But if we drop back on this, go back to 850, this is where your problem lies. This is going to be your problem area. And that's going to be the persistent trend as we go throughout this storm system's life cycle. So we'll go ahead and move all the way up to 120 hours. You can see by this point, this is even heading towards my area. Surface temperatures are starting to dip below freezing here, but the lower level temperatures above our heads, same thing. And this is going to be a persistent trend even as we get into Sunday, where I think things would actually start to peak before we start to see a downtrend here. We'll probably see points of transition where we end up seeing some snow here before this system exits out. But again, once again, we'll look at the surface temperature. Not really matching here. So this definitely has the look of an ice storm here, more so than it does a snowstorm. I don't expect much to really change with that. With the way that low pressure is set up and the strength of it, because ultimately the strength of that low pressure is going to determine how much warm air is available. If it's weaker, then we might be talking a little bit more snow, but less moisture. So, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts with this. Again, we look towards the mid-levels of the atmosphere, though, starting to match up a little bit closer with those surface temperatures. So, like I said, this is going to be kind of a wacky situation, but I'm honestly anticipating ice on this one more so than snow. What's up, G, bro? I'm just happy we are still live right now. Hope you're doing well. We got it. I don't know about your area, but I think your area is going to be fine. I think Indiana is going to be fine. My area is going to get smacked, though, it looks like. Especially with the trend that I am on. Let me see something really quickly, because I'm pretty sure the euro still isn't going to come in anytime soon. Nope, not even starting yet. Okay. So I want to check one more thing, though, before we get going here. I want to see what exactly the GFS and the Euro have to offer in regards to the freezing rain potential. So, in case anyone missed it, we've been talking about the potential of a southern ice storm more so than I'd say winter storm. I mean, it still classifies as a winter storm, but I think this is going to be a big ice maker versus a snow maker. We're going to make our comparisons, though. We're going to use that one to the left is going to be for ice. This one we'll be using the snowfall. We'll be using the Kuchera ratio, or Kuchera ratio. So obviously, it's the latest data that we have available from the GFS. This came in probably about 20 minutes ago. And it's actually still loading as we speak, or the rest of the model run. But the hours that we needed loaded within the last 20 minutes, or really 30 minutes now at this point. But look at the bullseye that we end up having here. Now, one thing I will say about the GFS and the Euro models in regards to looking at freezing rain precipitation values, the QPF, quantitative precipitation forecast, they're very aggressive a lot of the time. So take these with a grain of salt. I highly doubt that we end up getting an inch of ice. I definitely would hope not, because that would be a devastating situation there. We will be in a spot where cities' infrastructures will be completely crippled if that were to come to fruition here. All right, so looking at our 24-hour snowfall totals, I don't really buy what I'm seeing here from the GFS. I think that's a little bit too aggressive for eastern Georgia, and especially over towards the Carolinas. Now, do I think we'll get accumulative snow? I'm not so sure. But we'll have to. Well, yeah, I do think we'll get cumulative snow, but I'm not so sure about these totals. I think about 2 to 3 inches is possible. Think you're wanting to get something northeast of Houston. Houston looks like they're going to be on the edge of it, of like the rain snow line here. Any sort of shift to the south, and it's very well possible at this point, could change the game. But I'm not too sure right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the precip map again. But yeah, based off accumulation, I haven't really seen much of anything yet. But over there, considering how rare snowfall tends to be in Houston, I would consider... What's going on with the audio? Really? Is this any better? Can you hear me now? Is it any better? I'm pretty sure my mic has a short in it. Or the cord that's connected to my mic has a short in it. I'm almost certain of it, in fact. I gotta find what cable I even need for this thing, truthfully. But yeah, it's been doing that a lot lately, I've noticed. I've had more and more people telling me. It looks like it's gonna stay away from you, but it's gonna be close. I don't know if you can hear me, Tim, but yeah, it looks like it's gonna be close. And I mean very close. If it does happen for you, it probably looks like it's going to be Saturday evening. Yeah, like I said, you're on the edge here. Now, this is of course only the GFS. The Euro might give you a better chance, but that model data is kind of old now. We're waiting for new data to come in, but that's not going to be for at least another hour. There's like a little sneaky shot that comes in overnight though, so either way, sounds like it's my internet again. I've been having internet issues all month. And of course today would be no better. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I'm trying to see if I can improve the quality. I've tried during the stream and nothing's really helped. I've dropped almost 10,000 frames in this stream actually. I'm surprised I'm still live. I'm gonna try one other thing here. Maybe that might help. Okay, let's try something else here maybe. Okay, so the internet's a little bit more stable now. Is this any better? Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Is that... Wait, what's going on? Okay, that's even weirder. Yeah, my computer's been bugging today, largely due to the internet, but is the audio quality any better? How long could the ice linger even after the snow? Are you asking me after the snow falls? All right. Good to hear, Tim. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on with my internet. I mean, I'm pretty unhappy with my service provider. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm actually really angry with them. Oh, well, for that, let's actually look at the surface temp. Also, a lot of new model data's coming, so that's why I'm not able to answer this off the top of my head here. Yeah, a lot of things are kind of happening all at once. But considering the fact that the college football national championship is tonight, I figured I'd try to do this now so that way I can get out to as many people as I can. Because after 7, 8 o'clock, people are going to be just locked in watching that. Okay, so the storm would peak around Sunday and then it ends by Sunday afternoon. It looks like we kind of bounce back for a brief period, but the next day where we're fully above freezing, it might be a while if I'm being completely honest here. Cuz I'm looking at Wednesday. It looks like maybe the 29th might be the best chance, but we keep kind of having those colder evenings, so there's always that chance of refreezing. And that's where the problem lies. Because I do see days where we get above freezing. But the problem that I have is that whenever it gets back below 32, whatever melts is just going to refreeze. So it could be a lengthy little stretch here. The next morning where we don't have a low, where we're above 32 for a low, it doesn't even seem like that's going to be till February. So definitely going to be a lot of reliance on the road crews to do their job and try to stay ahead of this. Now, the one upside to this is the fact that since it's been seen on models, and this has already been talked about from other outlets, there should be advanced warning and extra time for preparation. Now, I know Georgia has a little bit of a shaky reputation with doing a good job of handling these systems, but theoretically here, there shouldn't be an excuse. I'm just calling it how I see it. There really isn't much of an excuse to be had here. The only reason that it would go wrong is if it were to trend the other way and just start to dissipate. But other than that, though, we have a good 3-4 days of advanced forecasting ahead here. And if the trend stays consistent, local news is going to talk about it. So, like I said, there's really no way that they wouldn't know. And that doesn't just go for Georgia. That goes for pretty much all the states that are impacted here, which stretches from this span from here all the way to here. I know this is a crappy circle I've made. But anyone that's under the gun for freezing rain is just about within this box. Maybe I could shave part of this line off a bit. But still, fact of the matter is anywhere in this zone, especially north of this second line in the middle, odds are the local news network should also be talking about this. I just don't see why they don't. I mean, that's a headline that's going to be an attention grabber every single time. Like, I just don't see how it isn't. But theoretically, the Department of Transportation does their job. It shouldn't be the worst case scenario where people are stuck in the houses for days. Still want to prepare just in case. Of course, I would say wait about maybe another day before I would go shopping. maybe prepare for about 3 or 4 days. The total amount of ice is really what's going to be the key question in regards to our impacts here. That question's harder to answer. So are we going into another ice age or what? I wouldn't say we're going into another ice age, but it's a pretty big ice storm coming from my area. We tend to get these about once every year. I mean, and really we've been dodging them the last few years, so it was only a matter of time. Now, one thing about the Euro and the GFS is that I don't like about these two models is that they are so aggressive when it comes to ice accretion here. Alright, so let's get a final look at our totals. Okay, so I think these totals are honestly overdone, so wouldn't be too concerned about that. If we were to get half an inch ice, then I'd be very worried. But I would say that a quarter inch of ice could be possible. I wouldn't rule that out in the slightest. The real area of concern for me, I would say, will be over towards like Louisiana, Arkansas line. I think that's going to be a bullseye, and maybe over here towards the Carolinas could be another. I could potentially see maybe up to a quarter of an inch to maybe close to 3/10 plus over here as well. See, the one thing that I don't like is that the GFS and the Euro overdo ice totals pretty often here. I'm hoping that that continues to be the case because that would be crippling. GFS totals are a little bit on the lighter side, but even so, totals are pretty impressive. Half inch, not sure I buy it, but still. Quarter inch ice is more than enough. Definitely would avoid the roadways if anything. Even a 1/10 of an inch ice is a problem. Now the GFS is a little bit further to the south, but same old situation really. We could have widespread areas easily reaching a quarter inch of ice plus. So this by all means has the look of a significant snowstorm. Now the model that I do like to go off of when it comes to winter weather totals is the blend of models. This is a little bit more of a conservative picture, but even so, the values are still pretty impressive. 2/10 of an inch ice pretty easily, quarter inch ice there. And again, the bullseye definitely looks like it's over towards the Carolinas over here. Haven't seen any totals here where we're at about 4/10 of an inch yet, but we're getting pretty close. Same can be said over here towards the Mississippi Delta, especially over towards Louisiana, Arkansas, especially southern Arkansas. So definitely need to be prepared in those situations if trends continue to hold like they have been. Because originally, I could have arguably talked about this 12 days in advance, but I don't like to get into what we call no man's land here, which is usually around this range and beyond. About 200 plus hours. Can't really have a whole lot of faith in forecasting because within the next run, it's almost like a battle of attrition. It'll be gone the next minute. Again, like I mentioned with snowfall totals, seems like Virginia might be the hot spot here, or really the bullseye, which would be more aptly named. This is definitely not hot. And then over here towards Oklahoma, Kansas line looks to be another bullseye there. But I think the big concern with this system is going to be ice either way. There's just no real way of getting around it. We kind of already talked about the dynamics. Yeah, like I said, we've been very lucky with our ice storms over the last few years, but I think we might be dialed up for this one if things hold up. Like I said, there's always there's always fail parameters with any weather system, severe weather or winter weather. There's always a factor that ends up being sometimes unanticipated, and things can change. But in this situation, considering the consistency of the model data, we always have to be prepared for, we have to start thinking we might need to prepare for that worst case scenario. And this is kind of the difference between my channel and a lot of others. You just wanted a nice fluffy snow. You and me both. If I had to pick, I'm picking snow every time over ice. Like, dear God. Like, I'm going to be trapped in here, basically, if this happens. I'm not going to be able to leave. I'm literally surrounded by hills. So, this event gets going, I'm not leaving the house. It won't be possible. Just to leave my subdivision, I have to go down a huge hill that has a serious incline. I'll put it to you like this. Driving out of here, if I were to not even hit the gas and just roll downhill, I could probably still get to about 40 miles an hour without touching the gas. So, let that sink in. And then imagine ice on top of that. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Oh, and did I mention that I'm next to a river that's on both sides of the road too? Yeah, not great. So, and then on top of that, say I get past that and I get to the main road, no matter which way I go, I'm going up a hill in either direction. So, dude, I live in Georgia. I don't have no snowboard or skis. I don't have a snowboard or skis. I don't even know if we even have ski resorts down here. Yeah, it's just the nature of this one. It looks like North Star said, I wouldn't mind snow as much. Probably still wouldn't leave, but yeah, ice, forget it. Especially when you're talking about a quarter-inch of ice, that's a solid glaze on the road. It won't matter if you do or don't see it. You don't want to go across it. And then on top of that, there's the threat of power outages once you get to that quarter-inch range. So there is that. Oh, you're in Virginia. You don't have either? You don't have either snowboard or skis. Fair enough. Oh, Western North Carolina. Yeah, but not in Georgia. I told you that. But yeah. Well, on the membership channel, we did try to experiment with a little thing where we were doing ski resort forecast or ski resort outlooks. Just didn't really gain any traction, but I thought I might have seen one over towards the western half of the state. I know West Virginia definitely has them, like the state West Virginia. Oh, dear God, I just confused myself. Western Virginia or West Virginia? Now I need to figure out what you meant, Tim. Was it Western Virginia or West Virginia? You know, if they just kept it simple and called it Virginia, even though it would look like an oddly shaped state, probably would be a little bit easier. But no, they had to be extra special and call it West Virginia. And it's the only state that I can think of, well, North and South Dakota, but those are a little bit easy. Those are, no, it's not any better either. Southern North Dakota, Northern South Dakota. I can live with that better than West Virginia, though. I'm just saying. Maybe that's just me, but Daggone it. This is confusing right here. But anyways, though, if anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot at this point, because I think I've gone over as much model data as I have available here, because like I said, I don't really think that we're going to be able to be on long enough to get data from the Euro. I don't know how many of you guys are football fans. There's a big game tonight. I obviously don't want to tie up anyone. Tie up anyone. I obviously don't want to stop anyone from watching that. I'll probably be watching myself, truthfully, in the state of West Virginia. Oh, yeah, there's some there. I know that much. Yeah, the mountains make it to where it kind of has to be. But, yeah. But any questions, though, feel free to shoot. Got a little time, but obviously, if you're planning to watch the football game, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you decided to call it. Because if I'm being honest, I'm going to probably be watching the game, too. Hey, what's up, Justin? Well, things are getting interesting, bud. Things are getting real interesting. I mean, you can kind of see it here. I mean, we've gone over most of it. So to put it lightly, yeah, there's a couple of different bullseyes when it comes to the ice storm. Yeah, highly advise you to do that. Honestly, the forecast is better today for Texas than it looked yesterday. Because, like, the, excuse me. Because what I was saying, though, was the southern half of the state looks really bad. Well, Justin, I got news for you, buddy. I got news for you, buddy. You see everywhere to your south, all of that right there is ice, my friend. You could have a little bit of snowfall mixed in. Yeah, yesterday for Texas looked insane. But it looks like, at least from one model's, from a perspective of both GFS and the Euro, if I'm being truthful, it looks like things are slightly better for you guys, depending on your take. Either way, I wouldn't say that you're out of the woods yet, though, either. Because, I mean, you still have potential for some ice accretion, but not a lot. Like, yesterday looked like the freaking apocalypse, man. If I wasn't so mad about what happened yesterday, and you know what I'm talking about, Tim, because you're from Houston, and I'm actually a Texans fan. So yeah, you can imagine how upset I was after yesterday. That was hard to watch. That was very hard for me to watch. I've moved on now, obviously, but tough loss there. Yeah, snow totals are pretty impressive over there as well. I'm just interested really to see how the mixing ends up playing out, because that's going to be the key part of this. So this is the latest GFS. This literally came out within the last hour. So the thing with the GFS is, though, it favors your area more for snow than it does anything else now. But the Euro, it looks like it's still kind of trending towards maybe you getting a little bit more ice. But it's also shifted south, too. So, like I said, for your area, it's a little bit more touch and go. Unfortunately for mine, I'm stuck from the looks of it. If this continues, like, I'm not going anywhere. Even if I had a vehicle right now. But yeah, as far as your area is concerned, it's like kind of all over the place. GFS is a little bit patchy though. Yeah, I'm literally surrounded by hills. Ooh, the Euro's starting to come in. The Euro's just now starting to kick in. I'm kind of excited. So I guess we're doing a voting poll here. Um, yeah, one thing with the Euro does incredibly well with winter weather forecasting. I often will go to that sometimes more than the GFS. But I always try to go with the most up to date model data too. So it's finding that balance point that's always a headache for me. Sometimes that's why I don't make videos every day, because like the timing in which I'm able to get home before I have to do something else, like it's only a small window that I have available. Don't get me wrong, my thumbnails are trash. I'm just gonna say it. My thumbnails are trash, and I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. Like I don't know how the other guys do it, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But the simple fact of the matter is, man, like either way, I want to get the most up to date model data out in every video I make. Dude, your thumbnails are 1,000 times better than mine. Mine are hand drawn and they look like they're done by a 5-year-old. I just gotta call it what it is. But what was I gonna do here? I was gonna do a voting poll. All right. So simple voting poll, yes or no here. Should we hang out until the Euro model comes in? Oh no, I can't do that. I don't even know how to really use AI all that well to begin with. And then on top of that, I don't like AI videos in general. I don't really like AI period. So there is that. Well, yeah, it's a good thing you're off on Friday, that's for sure. Cuz it definitely doesn't look like the kind of weather you want to be out in. Well, the thing is with my weather as of recently, like today for example, I can't even work. So the job that I do, um, being a lawn care spray tech, the chemicals actually freeze below 32 degrees. And the thing about it is, obviously, you can't use frozen chemicals, so you have to wait for the temperature to go above 32, and then you have to have your ingredients melt. Then you have to go through all the process of remixing and balancing things out. It's chaotic. It's absolutely chaotic. So there are literally days where normally I would clock in at 6:45. I'm clocking in at maybe like 11, 12 o'clock. And I only get maybe 2 hours of a work day in. Because you can't, because one thing is, legally you can't work past sunset. Especially not with equipment. So you got to get out by the time the sun sets. And then on top of that, they do lock up the shop. So you got to get back. Somebody has to stay and make sure that all the trucks are accounted for, all that stuff. People start yelling at you if you do not come back within a timely fashion. So makes the job that much harder. So literally the Euro just started to come in. It's moving pretty fast because when I looked at it a couple minutes ago, it was only 3 hours in. We're already up to a full 24. So it's not going to be long. That's one thing about it. I mean, I don't know what we'll do necessarily to past the time here. Considering how quickly it's moving, it'll probably be like 20 minutes. And really, we don't even need to get to the full 144. I would say we probably need to get to about 120. Well, correction, not 120, probably like 100. Well, we might as well let it go all the way at that point then. Just so we can get a clear view. Because one thing about it is, we look at the frames here with the GFS. We start to see the first hints of precipitation right about here. So this is like Friday afternoon, early Friday afternoon. Yeah, it's only a few. Yeah, sorry. I would have done this at about 7, but I know a lot of people are going to be watching the college football game, so I was trying to increase my chances anyone for anyone that might be interested in watching that. Try to fit in a time slot before then, because let's just be honest, my channel's not winning that battle. So sometimes you just got to get in where you fit in. Oh yeah, I saw that. Must be nice. We might be able to see lights off to the north here. The skies are clear. The skies are clear, so that does help. Maybe I'll get to see something. Might be visible on camera. Maybe I won't. I honestly have no idea. I would love to catch it if it's at all possible, though. But we'll see how things turn out. Well, for me being an outdoor worker, cold doesn't really faze me that much. Or at least just straight up cold doesn't. Once you add the wind into it, different story. That's when it gets bad. So there's nothing worse than it being kind of chilly outside and then that wind starts to smack you in the face. Then it sucks. There's nothing fun about that. Dang. Hair's just falling out my head at this point, isn't it? There should be a chart. I don't know if I can pull that up, though. Let me look for it real quick. Yeah, you're colder than us right now, so yeah, it's getting pretty chilly. We're sitting at 41 over here. I have a little dashboard on my screen here with the current air temperature, and the current conditions. So let me look real quick. I'm trying to look at a map. I'm trying to find a map here. It's an article. I heard it would be visible on camera as far south as Mexico, but as far as not needing a camera, my area gets kind of close. The only downside for me is getting to an open spot where I don't have trees on all 4 sides. Okay. Okay. Got it. This is off Twitter here. Don't snitch. But yeah, you'll get auroras overhead in the pink. You get the aurora glow all the way past my area, and then here's the camera view line in the red. It's forecast subject to change, but still, confidence seems like it's pretty high. Yeah, over towards like western Mexico, it is past like the southern border here. So there's that. Light pollution. Oh, you're in the glow zone. Yeah, I am too. I'm hoping that I hope I get to see something. I've never gotten to see the aurora lights for one reason or another. But with the way temperatures are expected to drop, it's pretty sure it's going to be a delayed day once again. So that'll mean, well, probably going to be a late start to work, which fine with me, truthfully. But, you know, If I can, I'm going to try to catch it. Well, at least the vote seems unanimous. Alright, Justin. I'll catch you later. Only 57 hours in. We still got more to do. Still got more time ahead of us here. We're past the, we're under the 100-hour mark, though. I'll catch you later, though, bud. You know, I might do something on Discord, too, while I'm at it. Try to breathe some life back into there. Since I got a little bit of extra time. Also, let me text one of my coworkers. In fact, if anything, after this video, I might be making some shorts. Like, I might need to put one on YouTube. I think I might actually even expand. I'll do TikTok and maybe even Instagram. I haven't done an Instagram clip in, honestly, a couple of years. Actually, I've just now gotten to take a look at the analytics, by the way. Appreciate all the support here. We're at 17 likes. We're at 17 likes. I would love it if we could get to 20. If you could help me with the share button, by hitting that share button, because, I mean, this is vital information here. Definitely is going to be crucial, especially as we get closer towards the eventual scenario coming into play here. Like I said, nothing's set in stone, but either way, it looks like things have definitely begun to take a turn towards this. Or I'll say it's starting to look like it's going to happen. I never really like going full send on these, because I don't like. How do I say it? I guess I don't like trying to put people up in arms, having people alarmed or even, dare I say, scared. That's not what this channel is about. That's not how we want to do things here. So there is that. But trying to think, what should we do for the next 20 minutes or so? Because it's coming in fast. It's going to be kind of agonizing here. Like I said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Because in reality, I'm checking my phone here. But yeah, because in reality, I mean, I still have a lot of my own questions I'm trying to figure out with this. If you want to know more details as to who gets freezing rain and ice without looking at this, like why certain people are going to get freezing rain versus snow, I mean, like I said, feel free to ask. I don't bite. I'm happy to answer those questions, if anything. Or even just in the simple case of just how this setup even comes to be, I'm able to answer that at this point. So, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free. Honestly, I'm just happy that we're still live, considering the problems we had to start the stream. Snowfall total this year? For my area or just in general? Or are you asking about like the entire lower 48? Guess this seems pretty unanimous here. Lower 48. Okay, let's see what we got here. Because there should be a seasonal map. Observed snowfall seasonal. Here we go. Alright, so the graph kind of goes as follows. This is the snowfall totals up till 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning. Obviously, the big winners have been the mountains. Easily seeing a lot of areas where we're getting above 100 plus inches. Despite that, though, it's surprising to see that the Sierra Nevada range is at a deficit here. Northeast has been getting slammed over the last few weeks, so snow totals are pretty high over there as well. We're getting past the 80, heading into that 100. Weather records. I'll have to do a little bit of digging around for it, but sure. But my question is, what would you want? What kind of records are you looking for? That's the only thing that I would need to know. What records would you be looking for? Is it snowfall records? Ice records? Low temperature, high temperature? And are we talking across the lower 48 in general, or are we just talking about a particular area, state? Alright, so the easiest thing to find would probably be snowfall records by state, and we'll do it by day here. Now, obviously, I don't remember these by heart, so yes, I looked at Google for this one. Shame on me. So here are some single day snowfall records. Some good example. Here's one, or good examples. Here's one. Colorado had 63 inches in Georgetown. That dated all the way back to 1913. And that's the highest record for single day snowfall across the lower 48. Georgetown, Colorado. I'm actually going to look it up, see exactly where it is. Yeah, it's a mountain town. It's actually kind of in a valley. Trying to get some images of what Georgetown actually looks like, because it's on the base of the mountain, but it's of course in a higher elevation, so there is that. But yeah, 63 inches in a day, that's a rate of nearly 2.5 inches per hour. And typically, snowfall events don't even last all day, so the rate per hour probably could have been that of maybe at times 3 to 4 inches per hour. They likely even experience thunder snow. Because the thing about that is, thunder snow tends to happen once you get above that inch per hour rainfall, inch per hour snowfall, or precipitation rates. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with rain. You can get it without thunder, but because you still need, of course, convective properties to the weather system as well. Ooh, that's what we could look at. We could be in, but we could be in the running for a very interesting scenario, one that I ended up actually running into for the first time last year, and it's called thunder ice. Obviously, thunder snow is a thing. We know about that thanks to Jim Cantori. But thunder ice also can happen as well. You can actually get thunder and lightning based off the convective properties of a storm system. The one thing about convective systems as well is the one universal fact that you have to have some degree of instability. You don't have to have crazy values, but you need something. So I'm looking on surface-based CAPE here. I usually will use this map for severe weather, but we're changing it up today. We're breaking the rules. Hang on a minute. It's not a lot, but that's about 135 joules per kilogram of most unstable CAPE. So if I were to combine this and do this, we could come to find a very funny thing. Okay, so that's 96. Go right about here. Is there any reason why this isn't loading? There we go. Oh, okay, that's not quite right. We're not matched up. Wait, hang on. Hold on, something's wrong here. Why are we on Saturday's forecast? Hold on a second. What even was that? I think I figured out something else wrong with my computer, clearly. Is the internet acting up again? No. Everything's working properly. Huh. That might be an area of suspicion. Don't know if it holds true or not, but that's something to pay attention to. Doesn't look like the CAPE hangs around though either, so there is that. Let's go 2 more frames. Don't really see anything that matches up that immediately screams out to me we're going to get like a winter thunderstorm scenario. At least not right now. Anyway, back to the records. So, in second place, by the way, for single day snowfall, this is probably one state that you would figure. Single day record would be Alaska, 62 inches at Thompson Pass. This was in 1955. Again, Alaska is a usual suspect. One would figure that much, right? And then after that, we have California with 60 inches. Of course, it's in the Sierra Mountains. Another usual suspect. Then from there, we have New Hampshire at 49.3 inches. Probably could guess that. There's quite a few mountains up there as well, and locations kind of vary. Now this next one is going to surprise a few of you. The next state with a single day snowfall record, Arizona. Arizona has Herbert Ranger Station in 1967 got 38 inches of snow. Now keep in mind, these are just examples that I'm looking at. I don't have every state's single day snowfall record. At least I don't have it immediately. I could dig around for it, of course, but that might take some time here. We're almost there. We only have a few more scans left to go before we have the euro available to us. But yeah, so 38 inches in Arizona. Not what I was expecting there. I know Arizona gets snow, especially towards the northern part of the state during the winter, but 38 inches is really impressive. There are mountains towards the northern part of the state as well, though. And they can sometimes get slammed by these systems that'll form up over here and head towards the Mile High region in Denver. We already know the situation with Denver and how they get slammed. So there is that. I'm honestly surprised my state hasn't been mentioned in this as well. As an example. Because I think it was in 2018, we had a winter storm move through. It was a quick hitter, too. But I measured a snowdrift where we had a full foot of snow here in Atlanta. A full foot of snow in one day. 18 hours time. And then the craziest thing about all that is within the next day, just about all of it had melted. 2 days later, it was gone like it never happened. So kind of wild that they didn't mention that. Alright, we're getting close. We're almost there. We can probably shift our attention over. Probably get a look at some model data here. I'm kind of curious. Hey, wait a minute. That looks a little bit more suspicious, but the timing seems to be off still. Yeah, it doesn't really look like anything lines up based off of that. We do get some of the early timing of this storm down, though. Alright, let's take a look, see what we got. Then we'll see how it stacks up to the GFS, and that'll be the end of the stream. Okay, so the point of initiation definitely still seems to be towards Friday afternoon. Euro still kind of holds that evening trend, and then also a little bit further off towards the west as an early start. Has crept a little bit further to the north here. Bigger snow shield off to the north too. It's still holding that trend with that low pressure that's over towards the Rockies, along with this piece of energy towards the Gulf. The reason we end up getting this bigger snow shield is because these two end up phasing, and we end up getting increased moisture as a result of that. Rain shield is also bigger towards the south, though, so there's a little bit less mixing going on here. And then this extends and moves off to the east a little bit faster. But this is also a much bigger area of freezing rain that pops up here. So that turns into a disaster for parts of northern Mississippi and Alabama. Also, this is a disaster for parts of northern and central Louisiana, southern parts of Arkansas, and then, of course, Georgia, South Carolina, and parts of North Carolina get slammed. Totals look like they're going to be a little bit more impressive for maybe Virginia, maybe even heading into the mid-Atlantic and southern parts of the Northeast as well. So it's another thing to make note of there. And then we'll watch this, of course, head out into the ocean. But this looks like an even longer duration event as a result of this recent shift here. I'm interested to see what the next GFS run has to offer, because the real question now becomes which of the two scenarios end up winning out. Is it the GFS or is it going to be the Euro? So we'll go ahead and split the view here. Alright, so GFS on the right side of the screen, Euros to the left. Little quick system comes through the southeast. That heads out. It's at about 96 hours, where things look like they start to begin, actually more like 99. Oop, a little bit too far. GFS definitely looks like it starts earlier. Not quite as much moisture available. So it looks like it has another low that's kind of lagging back over here. But that funnels in more moisture from the Pineapple Express here, which is this section over here towards the Pacific. So that low ends up spinning counterclockwise and just kind of pulling that moisture here that gets caught up in this trough. So that's the kinetic part of the equation here, and then we'll see this end up kind of pulling here. I don't know if Tim's still here, but this might be the scenario that he would look for. And then it looks like we would probably get snow on the backside of this in my area if this were to come into play too. So many moving parts. So again, we just looked at the Euro. We'll refresh it one more time. A little bit of a later start. Bigger moisture shield initially. Low looks like it strengthens a little bit earlier. Also takes a little bit of a northward jog, so it pushes that rain snow line further to the north as well. Heavy freezing rain looks to be likely over here as a result too. And interestingly enough, as this heads offshore, this is a little bit weaker than the GFS scenario. So not as much snow likely on the backside of it. And again, this is one of the flaws with the early morning and the dinner time Euro, is the fact that this doesn't go to 360 hours like the midnight and lunchtime models. That's just one of their little quirks. They don't show every model at the same amount of hours, unfortunately. So we only get 6 days on this run, but the run that comes in at midnight is going to show twice as much and even a little bit extra. So no matter how you look at it, pretty interesting scenario here. Probably one of the last things I'm going to look at, I just want to see how the warm air at the mid-levels or the lower levels of the atmosphere is mixing with this in comparison to some of the other maps were. We already know the deal with GFS. It's towards the lower levels of the atmosphere, about a few thousand feet above our heads. Not quite reaching into the 10,000s, where we're expected to see temps below freezing, and this is where the freezing rain becomes possible. The Euro having a more of a warm nose leads me to believe we might see a little bit of a stretch, maybe into the mid-levels. And there's our warm nose right there. It kind of pops up by the time we get into early Sunday morning. And that's going to be due in part to that low pressure kind of manifesting, a little bit of that extra moisture also coming in from the southwestern or southeastern Pacific, pushing southeast, which is kind of a mouthful. Pause. So if I were to combine that, and then I change this over to the surface temperature, where is it? There it is. Yep, that pretty much says it all right there. Surface temperature 26, while the temperature above about maybe 3,000 feet high is about 6 degrees Celsius, so that's above freezing versus below freezing. That, like I said, pretty much sums up the whole entire picture there. And then here we go. Yep, that's due to this Pacific Ocean moisture that we have here. Those mid levels are a little bit warmer. I do think we end up kind of shifting back to the back end of this because of the fact that, well, we don't have a whole lot available in regards to our data with the euro. Yep, surface temperature below freezing, so we have shallow. So yeah, it's a shallow area of warm air aloft here. That's going to be the key difference maker. Thanks. Gotta thank Google for this one. Once Google Chrome added this feature, which was like maybe late last year, and I was able to get access to it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever. It honestly is. It makes life a lot easier for me, and like trying to explain this to people, it'll probably click a little bit better. If I'm shifting back and forth the screen just starting to flash, I'm more likely to lose people's attention because of that. But with me doing it this way, just a little bit less stressful. So always happy to have that. But I think that'll do it here. We've been live for 2 hours. All right. So a couple other things I want to make sure I mention. If this does start to look, if this almost seems guaranteed like this is sure to happen, plan is to be live for this. It's not even a question. We will be live for it. Live until probably the power goes out, which honestly I hope it doesn't, but you never know. But we'll probably do a regular video tomorrow, unless you guys just really want a live stream. I'll definitely be doing another live stream if the trends continue to hold by Wednesday or Thursday. If things really uptrend, then I'll do one tomorrow. But I think I'll just do a regular video. Do keep an eye out for the shorts here that I'll be putting up, because I am trying to spread the word, trying to keep people ahead of the game here. So that way, if things continue to further go downhill, you can just go to the store and prepare now as needed. Got candles. Well, we have a fireplace. We're getting supplies tomorrow just in case. I mean, Tuesday's our normal day to do our runs regardless, so we're not too worried. We have a gas stove, so there's that. So it's not like we won't have a way to cook. So I'd say we're pretty good. Main thing is spreading the word so that way everyone else can do the same. It's probably, if anything, for me, maybe a couple incidentals that we would probably get here, and then we would be good. But outside of that, though, that's pretty much it. Well, it's not really much more I can go into detail about with this one. I know that some of you might be wanting to watch the football game, so I'm not going to hold you up. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow for sure. Unless you're looking at some of the shorts tonight, but either way, see you soon. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your evening, folks.